with us on Tuesdays. And of course, I'm talking about publisher Bayoubuzz.com, Steve Sabludowsky. And Steve, welcome aboard. How you doing?
Hey, Jeff. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Steve. And a lot of topics I want to address with you. But first, I'd like to talk about Bayoubuzz newsletter went out yesterday with a shocking headline concerning the governor's race and maybe new developments there. The narrative has been over the past few months that we're headed toward a runoff between John Bel Edwards, the Democrat, and David Vitter, the Republican. Is there a new development in that race?
Well, there's a new development in terms of a poll that has come out, and that poll indicates that that Scott Angel is doing well, and the poll indicates that he is actually leading David Vitter now.
But who did the poll, and is it reliable, and is it something that you think can be trusted?
That's really, it's a very difficult question to answer, and here's why. Number one, to me it's more reliable than the information I've seen elsewhere, other than a poll that occurred I think in March or April by Bernie Pincinat. The point being that there have been other polls. Those polls have appeared on Hayride. But they, for reason I don't know, please help me with this, but they don't have the crosstabs. Those polls, I mean, the last poll didn't even have the poll. It was just okay, this is what just the result is.
The raw numbers, yeah.
No, it wasn't even the raw. I mean, it was a paragraph saying, okay, well, this is. I mean, to me, that's not the way. I mean, that is not the way. If you're going to be, say, authoring a poll, you put it out there.
Now, I don't know if you saw David Vitter's response. I think he called it a poll from Dreamland or something. I mean, that Vern Kennedy was wrong about all these races. He talked about the mayor's race in New Orleans and other races where pollster Vern Kennedy has been way off. And the impression is this is another poll where the pollster is just way off.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's I communicated with Kyle Ruckert, I'm sorry, who's the campaign chairperson for David Vitter, and was running Vitter's office up in Washington D.C. and so. I mean, obviously that's what he said, and I think it's, I mean, he has every reason to present that information, but I think that you still have to look at the poll itself, okay, and decide whether or not you believe it. Is the information correct? Yeah, I mean, there's always a question of bias anytime you see a poll, but what about the numbers of this poll? And so that's what I dug, into the numbers, and I gave Kyle Ruckert, and I also gave the pollster an opportunity to discuss those numbers and the validity of those numbers. And I mean, because like I said, there are polls on Hayride. I mean, hopefully the next poll, or hopefully the past polls,
right,
they'll post all that information, so that people like Kyle Ruckert and myself can go into those numbers and compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, and apples to pears.
So just to give our listeners an overview, the new poll shows Scott Angel. Is he leading overall, or is he just the leading Republican?
Yeah. First of all, there's two ways of looking at the poll. One is taking the results, okay, and then to do what is called the African American redistribution, 90% in a statewide election,
right?
Yeah, and to recalculate. So basically, in the July report, the poll, basically what you had was, I'm just looking at the numbers right here. You had John Bel Edwards had 20%, Angel with 25%, David Vitter 22, Jay Darden 12, and undecided 21%. So the answer to that, just in terms of the questions and the responses, okay, were Angel was 25% and David Vitter was 22%. Edwards 20%. Now, after the African-American redistribution, it was Vitter with 21%, Edwards 34%, Scott and Joe with 21%. So assuming that the election were today and the African Americans were
turned out
and now here what the pollster did was he calculated that based upon a 26% turnout. Okay. Not 28%, which he's 26. He says is conservative. There's question as to whether or not there'd be a greater turnout.
I think there would be
a greater turnout in a black community, greater turnout in a white community
for a governor's race. Yes.
Well, and so I think you can look at these different numbers. And what I'm saying is that at least for whatever it's worth, he put the numbers out there with the crosstabs.
Yeah.
Okay. The questions, the analysis, etc. And so far, other than Bernie Pincinat, nobody has done that.
Okay.
Okay. So how can I compare? I mean, my gut tells me that David Vitter is doing quite well,
right,
and will continue, to do quite well because
but then you have this poll that shows otherwise.
And you have this poll that shows otherwise, but even those polls that are up on Hayride indicate that Vitter has dropped 3%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what's going on. Then we've got to, of course, open up our phone lines if folks want to chime in. Jeff Crouere here, Steve Sabludowsky with us. Our talk line 504-556-9696. Seems like Vitter is focusing more on the crime issue at a forum. He really said two things. One, state police needs to be in New Orleans permanently. Two, he says, hey, the crime problem right now, the murder rate increase. He pinned the blame on Mayor Mitch Landrieu, said Landrieu was responsible for a lot of this increase in crime, his lack of leadership. Seems to take a more aggressive approach anti-Landrieu than the other candidates. You think that's something that's going to work for him?
Well, sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I think so. I think so. In that particular, the voters who have left him have been Republicans, evangelicals, according to this poll. Okay, and that what they did was they, instead of going into independent, they went to Angel.
Right.
Part of that's because Angel has actually been doing some TV advertising, and but to answer your question more precisely, yeah, I think that Vitter was very successful in going after Obama, and so he's going to go after Landrieu.
Right.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, I think that you're going to have others. At least Jay Darden and John Bell Edwards go after Vitter and go after Angel and link them up with Bobby Jindal.
Our talk line 504-556-9696. Let's bring on our friend Phil the Patriot. Phil, welcome aboard. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, great, fantastic. Listen, Jeff, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that disturbed me quite a bit in the past few days. Listen, first of all, I want to talk about crap music. Then I want to talk about some internet video games that I witnessed some children playing. I was at work the other day. This happened to me at work. Now, I've heard the same song before, driving around and stuff. There's a crap music song out there, and I do mean a crap music song that uses the F word through the whole song.
Oh, my goodness.
F the police. I'm serious. Bleep the police. Oh, they must say it 100 times through that song, among a bunch of other violent things. And I seen a co-worker, one's white and another was black, and they were doing something with their fingers and singing that song in the building while I was there. And I'm just absolutely disgusted by it. I think I'm going to report it to my manager, regardless of the consequences, because I don't like that. And I've heard it before, the same song, and that's just one among thousands upon thousands of songs that parents are letting their children listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about songs that have sex in it, rape in it, all kinds of killing in it and stuff like that. That has to have some kind of effect upon the population. And I hear young children listening to it. I hear teenagers and young adults.
Do you think, Phil, let me interject here because we're limited on time and I want to focus it on the elections, but do you think this could contribute to the crime issue that we have here in New Orleans?
Oh, most definitely, definitely, definitely. And another thing that disturbs me greatly is I see children, you know, in all areas, all over the place, when I'm delivering my food and stuff, in front of big TV screens, playing these internet video games where they're talking to people, and they're on tops of buildings with sniper scopes shooting at people. And I said, what is that? They said, oh, don't worry about that. I'm FBI and I'm killing evil people. And there's all kind of like.
So that's in the video games. So the violent video games.
Yeah, violent video games. They had Dungeons and Dragons style. They got martial arts style. And this one here, they hide behind vents on tops of buildings and they shoot people.
Well, thanks for the report, my friend. That's Phil, the Patriot. You know, he's talking about violent video games, talking about music. Of course, you've got a lot of influences that contribute to the crime problem. Some people say lack of parental involvement. Let me bring it back to the governor's race. Do you think, Steve, that crime, and certainly now that we've seen, I guess, David Vitter speak out, do you think crime could be a big issue in the race?
It could be, but that means that if it is, then the governor needs to own, you know, what happens with crime. I'm not saying that you should, the governor, whoever the governor is, should not be focused on crime. I think the state has a role, certainly in terms of whether it's state police or you know, any other state involvement. The state has a role. The criminal justice system. Okay, I mean, that's part of the problem. The prison system, that's part of the problem. It's not just the cops. So,
and can a candidate just say, oh, and I sort of got that impression that some of the candidates were saying, oh, it's just a New Orleans problem. We're just going to sort of let New Orleans deal with it. But this is your biggest city. This is your major tourist attraction. If New Orleans is unable to handle the crime situation there, doesn't the governor have to step up and do something?
Does he have to? You know, that's if the mayor were to ask and the governor agrees, does he have the right to go in there and do something? You know, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, the Fed saying, hey, you know, there's an urgent situation. We need to get involved. And the governor say, no, you can't. You know, so I really don't know. I like to think that they would cooperate together. I would like to think that New Orleans would love to have the support of the state in every way to deal with the crime situation.
Well, it does look like that at least the state police presence has been a big help, and that has been the state stepping up. And we'll see whether, you know, Vitter is able to prevail and whether it will be permanent or whether it'll be something that'll just be provided periodically. I bet you, Steve, that the French Quarter merchants down there would like to see that as a permanent presence.
Again, I certainly think that the more police that you have on the streets, especially in areas where, you know, or say crime infested, then certainly, I mean, that's going to help. I mean, I think it'd be great. I'd much rather have the money go there than to go to follow Bobby Jindal as he goes to Iowa, etc., and has the state police, and we're paying for it.
Right, and that sort of was an interesting, I guess, aspect of what's been going on over the past few days. I wanted to get your thoughts on. Of course, Bobby Jindal was in the first debate, sort of the undercard, what some called it the kiddie debate. Others said it was the folks who were striving to make the top 10. It was sort of a qualification debate. And from what, and I did not see it, but from the people that I've talked to, he seemingly did okay, but not anything that is going to get him noticed nationally or get him any traction. Your thoughts?
Well, those who've been, okay, first, those who've been following Jindal with those issues that he talked about in the debate, we've heard it millions of times before. So, I mean, it wasn't anything that he said that, that he hadn't said before.
Right.
Many, many, many times before. So, those who had never heard those comments before, then certainly, oh my God, yeah, right on. Obviously he didn't make any real impression. I did watch the debate. I watched the debate in the evening, and he made no impression.
About Carly Fiorina. That's all who I heard about really from the first debate, that she did so well and she got the bump, and I didn't really hear anything that any of the others said at all.
Yeah, it was a horrible debate. I wouldn't even call it a debate. I mean, honestly, truly, it was terrible. I thought that, when the Fox announcer said, mentioned Carly, I thought to myself, yeah, I agree. So I was not surprised that, she has been elevated and that she was mentioned as the winner. Because I thought that, her presentation actually was very good. The way that her information, I thought was very good. And I think that, she'll present herself very well on the campaign. I'd like to see her.
Hold that thought. We want to continue the discussion. Steve Sabludowsky with us, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com. Jeff Crouere here. You're joining us here on the airways, 990 AM, and also Bayoubuzz.com via Google Hangout. To join the conversation, 504-556-9696. It's a busy Tuesday broadcast. Let's take care of some business, get a news update. We'll be right back.
This is Michael Savage. Join me in the Savage Nation, weeknights, 9 p.m. to midnight, right here on 990 AM WGSO in New Orleans. Give me 15 minutes and I'll give you the real America. Savage.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm Kay Long. The feud between Donald Trump and Fox News coming to an end. The Blaze Radio's Robin Walensky.
Hey, Steve.
Hey.
Hey. Jeff says he can only hear you out of one ear, and he's having trouble hearing you. Is there any way we can improve it?
Wow.
Back guesting, doing Fox and Friends, leaving the
let's see.
with Megyn Kelly behind. Trump campaigning in Michigan Tuesday.
We have a tremendous crowd tonight, fantastic crowd and great people. And I love Michigan, and we're doing very well up there. We're doing sort of well everywhere. It's been amazing.
And he seems focused now on serious issues like how to combat ISIS.
They will come for us if we don't come for them. I say cut them off where they're getting their wealth. Cut them off at the oil. I said keep the oil because somebody else will take it, Steve. I said it on your show many times.
You did.
Guess who took it? ISIS took it. And by the way, Iran is taking it. Everybody's taking it.
Yeah, I think that's better. That sounds much better.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Make it their source for the truth. Why not make it your source for the truth? Make theblaze.com your homepage for news that the other outlets won't even touch. Subscribe to The Blaze TV at theblaze.com/TV or on Dish Network and get access to original programming like For the Record, the show that exposes what's really going on that the government doesn't want you to know. And Real News, the daily conversation on the topics of the day that matter most. Check out the Blaze Radio Network at theblaze.com/radio with original shows like Buck Sexton, The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson, Pat and Stu, and Jay Severin. Or, if you need something to hold in your hands, subscribe to The Blaze magazine. So basically, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking The Blaze with you. This is The Blaze. Truth lives here. So just to recap, anywhere you need to go, you can take the truth with you by taking The Blaze with you. Find out all the ways at theblaze.com.
It's off with the gloves. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul ripping Donald Trump for a lack of substance behind the businessman's harsh criticism. The Blaze Radio's Tom Peace.
I mean, aren't people eventually going to say, does the emperor have any clothes or does the emperor have a brain, frankly? I mean, people are going to finally say, what is he really saying when he says, well, I must be smart because I'm rich?
The Republican presidential candidate says Trump may try to become an American emperor if elected president.
The executive branch has grown too strong. And I say, as I go around the country, we actually need to give power back to the legislature and back to the people respectively. And my concern is that he would grab up that power and really treat the country as sort of his little bully fiefdom.
Paul appearing on Fox News' The O'Reilly Factor. Trump responding to Paul's criticism in a tweet saying he finds the senator's comments truly weird and saying he's acting like a spoiled brat without a properly functioning brain.
Trouble in a Rick Perry campaign office in South Carolina. The Blaze Radio's Greg Moore with that story.
Rick Perry's South Carolina staff now working for free. The former governor of Texas announcing that pay has been frozen for his staff in South Carolina. Perry's getting set for a Thursday visit to the state, where some staff members will continue to work despite no pay. It's not known when they will be paid again. The campaign's state director says pay is only one reason that he does this.
Americans seeing lower gas prices.
The average price down 11 cents over the last 2 weeks. Regular gas on average now just over $2.70 a gallon, down 80 cents from this time last year. Supply and demand part of the reason. And U.S. crude is at a 4-month low, around $43 a barrel now. Prices vary depending on where you're at in the country. Drivers in L.A. paying about $3.80 a gallon, while drivers in South Carolina are paying about $2.19 a gallon. AAA says if things continue the way they are, parts of the country could be under $2 a gallon by Christmas.
The Blaze Radio's Brad James, and I'm Kay Long with news on the Blaze Radio Network. Truth lives here.
One more day of the heat advisory, where heat indices today probably getting up there close to 108, 10, or 12. That's before the clouds and showers hit across the area. There's a 50% chance of that developing through the afternoon. Otherwise, partly cloudy starting the day and into the middle 90s today before some rain, cooled showers affect some of the areas. That chance tonight will taper off from 40, 50%. Tomorrow, about a 30, 40% chance of scattered activity around the area. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies, mid-90s. Sperry, Van Ness, Gilmore auction will be
All right. Wow. We have got a busy 10 o'clock hour for you. All kinds of great guests joining us. We'll kick off with our friend, Ringside All-Star, publisher of Bayoubuzz.com, who's joining us via Google Hangout at Bayoubuzz.com and here on the airways, Steve Sabludowsky. And Steve, welcome back.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Can I just mention a little bit more about this poll?
Yeah, please.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. I really do encourage your listeners to go to Bayoubuzz and look at the article and make their own decisions. Excuse me. The article name is bear with me. Analysis and gel leading bidder in Louisiana governor's race with a question mark.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying that. I am not saying
You're throwing
that.
it out there, right?
I'm throwing out because this is a poll. I'm also saying take a look at the discussion in a sense that Kyle Ruckert from the bidder campaign and the poster are having about the poll, the reliability, the credibility of the poll. That is more important to me than anything that I might say, because I'm just basically encapsulating and saying, look, what other information do we have out there? Okay, if Kyle is going, and he's correct, to go in and pick this poll apart, which I would hope that he would do and others would do, then shouldn't we have the right to do that with the other polls that are out there, and we don't have that information? Okay, that's the main point that I'm making here.
Yeah.
So, does Angela have a chance of beating
Vitter?
Being ahead of Vitter? Yeah. I would not bet my money on it right now.
But
yeah.
What is driving his increase in support? Obviously, he's got some momentum. And what is the cause of that? Has he been doing a lot of media statewide? Is his message connecting? What do you think's working for Angel?
Well, I mean, that's something that we don't know for a fact. The way that the pollster had framed it was that Vitter was dropping on his own.
Okay.
That it wasn't really the advertising, although the advertising did have some basis to it. And basically, and I have some numbers here that Ruckert had actually sent to me, and I think he made a really good point. I really do, and that is that if you look at the advertising that Angel did in May, it was substantially more than the advertising they did in July. So why is it that in July that Angel has jumped up 10 points?
Versus the previous month. Okay.
Versus the previous months. And I think it's a legitimate point. Now, here's the answer from the pollster standpoint, that again, Vitter is declining on his own, that people are moving away from Vitter. Is that true? Well, those are the numbers that the other polls indicate, but not to such an extreme. 3 points over 2 months versus 10 points over 1 month.
I've been unimpressed with the campaign, unimpressed with the candidates, unimpressed with what I've seen so far. The only one really seemingly making moves is David Vitter. So I don't know what Lieutenant Governor Jade Arden is doing. I think Angel is doing some advertising, maybe in other areas of the state more than here. And then, just have John Bell Edwards, I guess, trying to consolidate his vote. But I mean, I haven't seen much. It's been sort of boring, but maybe it'll pick up. We talked last week about the one thing that I thought was sort of exciting, and that is maybe John Georges would enter the race. And then, of course, after our discussion, we brought it up. All these other media outlets picked it up. And that seems to be the hot story now, that he may jump in. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does, Steve.
Right. Well, let me throw something out to you about that. And I was going to actually make this point, and that is that John Georges is one of the individuals who helped pay for this poll. Okay. So he's one of, as I appreciated, 15 or 20 individuals who are part of a group, and that's, you've seen those groups around the state.
Right.
They parlay together. They put up their money. They want to see what's happening. In George's group, you already have some dissension. Okay, from the standpoint that in May, I think it was, some people from Angel took numbers that were favorable to Angel and presented the information publicly. Okay. The pollster had to go in there and say, no, this is not correct. Then in June, the same thing happened, but it happened with Edwards. And again, the pollster, Vern Kennedy, had to do the same thing. That's a story that we wrote about, that we talked about last. So, here's like you have Mike Baham, who writes in the Hayride, and Mike is a good friend of mine, friend of yours, but says, hey, look, this, that George is pulling the strings. I mean, he's coming up with this poll,
right?
Okay, that indicates that Angel is ahead. Well, excuse me, but you think the other people involved in funding this poll is going to allow this poll to be dominated? They have meetings. They discuss the poll. They have the poll in front of them. They had a meeting last week. Everybody had the poll.
All right. Let's do this.
So, I mean, it's just,
sort of behind the scenes look. Let's squeeze in a call here, Steve. 504-556-9696. Let's bring on our friend Nathan in Slidell, who's jumping in here. Hey, what's going on, Nathan? Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Look, I mean, this is kind of off topic. What are y'all discussing now? But I wanted to call in earlier and get an opportunity to. One of your first guests was talking about the deliberate dumbing down of America. Everybody needs to go read Charlotte Iserby's book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She was the senior policy advisor under the U.S. Department of Education under Ronald Reagan. And she discovered the documents and the plans under the Reagan administration to implement socialism into the schools by eliminating the child's parents and religion, morals, and national patriotism in the schools.
She's a fierce opponent, I know, of Common Core, and I've had her on the program, and yeah, I mean, I think she's certainly someone who's very outspoken. Nathan has got a lot of recognition across the country, and I'll just use it, and I appreciate you bringing that up to ask Steve about the Common Core issue. We talked about crime. Common Core, you would think, would be one of the big issues in the governor's race. Have you sensed that or not?
Well, the only thing that's been out there that I know of is the poll from Bernie Pincinat in the spring, where, obviously Common Core was a very, very important number. I think over the vast majority of people were against it, opposed to it. So, I feel confident that will be an issue. I feel confident that the Vitter campaign is going to use that issue against Jay Darden. And I feel confident that he's going to use the Bobby Jindal issue against Scott and Jill. So these polls, I think, are very fluid. They don't, we haven't seen any real advertising yet. Vitter's got $10 million. So
it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, but here's a problem.
All right.
Vitter's numbers, according to this poll, Vitter's numbers are, and also according to other polls, Vitter is at like 31 at max. Okay, 31.
And with that, Steve, we're going to have to conclude because we're out of time. Sure. But that's an interesting point. He's not growing, and it could be trouble for his campaign. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it very much. I'll have a column for you later. Check out Bayoubuzz.com. All right, we'll be back.